Welcome back to another episode in the Our Media Thrive Tribe series. Get ready to be inspired, captivated, and taken on a journey that will ignite your passion for filmmaking. In this podcast, we dive into the world of award-winning video director and visionary Josh Cawthorn.
All right, so the first job I did was a Sainsbury's commercial with Jamie Oliver, and it was, I remember like showing up on set and I was just like absolutely like all inspired.
With a career spanning over a decade, Josh has made a profound impact in TV, commercials, and branded content video, captivating audiences around the world with his unique directional style and powerful narratives.
And the idea that I can switch from directing to videography makes me a lot more like nimble, and therefore like some of the greatest jobs I've got have been because I can shoot, and like, you know, it would be like a kind of, right, we need someone to go to Saudi Arabia to make some golf like tomorrow.
From working with Beyonce and Jay-Z to shooting documentary videos, Josh counts brands like Nike, Adidas, Puma and Chanel as clients.
2 days later, he sent me a text message saying like, hey, are you available on Saturday? I've got a music video. Do you want to do it? And I was like, this is like my first music video. I was like, yeah, cool. Who is it? He goes, it's Jay-Z.
Josh shares his invaluable insights, techniques and wisdom that will appeal to both aspiring filmmakers and fellow colleagues in the industry.
No one's going to take you seriously if you don't have a show reel.
Right.
Like, and your show reel needs to be you.
He revisits his own personal career path from starting out fresh from university as a runner through to upskilling and transitioning into his now multidisciplinary filmmaking approach.
Make contacts, like, you know, find out, you know, everyone knows who the DOP from like Wakanda Forever is. Everyone knows who, do you know what I mean? Like them people, like, yeah, it's not unobtainable. Anything's
Don't
possible.
Be scared, basically.
Yeah, like, especially if you've got the drive and the passion, like what's stopping you? You know, you got to do it. It's life's too short, isn't it?
So grab a notebook, sit back and prepare to be inspired. With your host, George Chioka.
Josh, thank you so much for coming. It's been one of these situations when you came straight from a set, came straight to see us. Now that is a big thing. Thank you so much.
No, it's all right. You were like, why are you looking so stressed when I walked in the door? And I was like, okay, I'm trying not to be. I'm chilled.
I guess we should literally just dive in. We should just get started with our first question. How did you start it in the world of videography?
Yeah, okay. So my sort of journey began in the business when 14 years ago, right? So I'd studied at Bristol UE so finished UE and had a show reel that was like okay, but it was like, it wasn't like anything that was like groovy enough to get me like anything as a director or you know, shooter or whatever back then. But anyway, went straight into the business. All right, so the first job I did was a Sainsbury's commercial with Jamie Oliver, and it was I remember like showing up on set, and I showed up on set and I was just like absolutely like all inspired. You know, this was like, okay, it was a commercial for Sainsbury's, but even so, I think their budget would have been like pretty hefty, because it was, I remember walking on set and they had like fake snow everywhere, and then they had like this enormous amounts of like trucks and wagons and these lights that they were like, you know, with these massive frames, just like, you know, all inspiring. And then just like, you know, there's Jamie Oliver and there's like loads of food going around, home economists, you know, like, and it was just like, this is nuts, like, you know, and the director like on his chair and these monitors and cables everywhere, you know, and there must have been about 100 people or something. And I remember just like, this is nuts, like. And then I remember chatting to someone, they're like, yeah, this is a commercial. So bearing in mind 14 years ago, this is a commercial. And that was like what you would, that was where you would see like super money being spent back then, right? So yeah. That was like, I was like, oh my goodness, this is heaven. Like, this is just where I want to be. Like, this is just nuts. Like, look at this is magic. And then looking at the director going like, how on earth do I do that? And then looking at the DOP and thinking like, how on earth do I do that? And then just looking around the place and being like, how does anyone like do all this? Do you know what I mean? Like, this is just crazy. So my journey, like, that was my first experience of it. And I remember I walked up, I was looking at the lighting department thinking like, this is wicked. And then I sort of like figured out who the boss was, you know, judging by his
always trying
body
to find
language.
out who the boss is.
Yeah.
See if you can ask him for a pint. Yeah. Go out for a pint.
So I went up to him and I was like, this is wicked. Like, tell me everything, you know, like, can I like shadow you forever? And I like, you know, I was so keen, like, you know what I mean? I was just like, you know, you don't have to pay me anything. I just want to like follow you. I want to follow you. Cause this is how does, you know, how do I keep this momentum? How does this ever stop? You know? And he's like, he got my number. And then like 2 days later, he sent me a text message saying like, hey, are you available on Saturday? I've got a music video. Do you want to do it? And I was like, this is like my first music video. I was like, yeah, cool. Who is it? He goes, it's Jay-Z. Wow. I was like speechless, like, you know, from you know, this is just like, like
it was such a
let's go
big, massive
leap,
isn't it?
Yeah, and that was the biggest like throw into the deep end like you could ever imagine, like, you know. And I like to think that I'm lucky, but then also the reason I got that was because I was obviously so like keen and like desperate, you know what I mean? So like that was just luck that it happened to be Jay-Z. It could have been anyone. Do you know
so your role then, what was your role again?
Runner.
You're running as a
I was a runner in the lighting department, which like was, yeah, so that was just wicked. We filmed it at Alexandra Palace. It was the one with Mr. Hudson, like Forever Young, that track. And it's like so nostalgic. Like every time I hear that song, which is absolute banger, by the way, like, you know, every time I hear that tune, I'm like, it's so cool because it reminds me right back to like where it all started for me. Like, okay, yes, I was a runner. I wouldn't exactly say it's like my project or anything like that, obviously, but like, you know, but even still, like that for me was like, this is like 14 years ago, right? So that was when it all started. That's when I got the bug, and that was when I was like, right, this is cool. Like more of this. Like, how do I keep this going? Like, because this is sick. Like, and that's sort of where it started.
So what was the next step from there? Because obviously you progressed, right? From runner, you went to filming, or what was your journey from the point of runner?
So I was, like I say, so inspired by everything, and so I kind of figured out, right, how do I become like a career runner, like to start with, because like this'll do, this is cool. Like I'm really happy with just learning everything at the minute. So I spoke to like a few other runners on set, and I was like, guys, how do I remain like a runner? And they were like, you know, you join Coolbox, join Red, join like one of those diary services. I'm like, what's a diary service? And then, you know, turns out diary service is where you'll find work like as a runner, AD, yada yada yada. So I joined them, and yeah, like the work started coming in. You know, you pay them a fee. You pay them a fee, they get you the work, and that's cool. And like, you know, you build up relationships very quickly with like first ADs. They're the ones that book you, and then they continue to book you. So that was my career, and I did like a good like maybe even close to 3 years of that, which was like, which is great. It was great. And then it was like starting to become like a little bit like, okay, I've learned everything now, like, and like, I'm not happy here. Like, this is actually like, even though the money's there, but like, and the work is there, but you're in a bit of a rut. Yeah, there's definitely, it was frustrating because it was like, I was starting to, I was very, like I said, I've always been passionate about it. So I was like I was like shooting stuff like, you know, on the side, and like just making like really awesome like holiday videos or whatever, but like, you know, like frightened to sort of bring my camera on set a bit like that, and just like it was this weird thing of like, you know, this is awesome, but hang on a minute, like this is not what I want. Like,
more to it than that.
Do you know what I mean? It's weird. And I guess like this is probably a common thing for lots of people. You find it's one thing finding the industry, and then it's the other thing of like, do you know what I mean? Like getting there and getting
at the top of it.
Yeah. So, and I think I remember I did a few years later, we did a music video for Beyonce. And
the excitement that you still have from that.
Oh my God, that's so lame. You could take that out. No, keep that. No, I just feel lame when I mention that name drop like that. A few years later, we did a music video for Beyonce, okay? And I saw a behind the scenes unit walking around, right? It's two guys. They're basically the same age as me, right? And they're doing the whole tour video, right? And I was like, hang on a second. And they're like my age, they've got their own little kit. They were like 5Ds, you know, back then, walking around, and they were like, yeah, we've just been to Japan with her, like, da-da-da-da-da. And it was like, that is cool. Like, and even though it's cool that I'm there, I'm still like, wait, there's more to this than just like this, just one music video or like one commercial, or like, do you know what I mean? There's like, there's more. Do you know what I mean? So
to it, yeah.
There's more to it. Yeah.
Was that the point where you reinvented? Could we say like you reinvented yourself? Like, you know, I want to do that from now onwards. So then you shifted from runner straight to filming.
Self-shooting videographer,
Love
director,
that.
whatever I can. Yeah,
The blockbuster.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about that because
Yeah.
you're a jack of all trades, pun intended. So we'll go back on that one in a minute. But I think I'm gonna hold you just for a second still in the past and maybe just brush over the fact that you went from runner then self-shooting, right?
Yeah, runner to well, I climbed up a bit in the AD ladder, so I seconded a few things, thirded a few things, and I might have firsted like half of a gig once upon a time. But like,
do you think this is like a natural way of progressing these days, as in start as a runner, get to understand a bit the industry, and then become a videographer, or can you just become a videographer straight away?
You don't need to do any of that stuff, and like I said, I got sick and tired of that stuff towards the end. So like, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I would say like it depends on your style. Like, okay, so. And it depends if you want to work with like big celebrities and big clients and stuff like that, then yes, like go and be a runner. Like if you're at the early stages of your career, I would say that's probably like quite essential, like pretty essential to do that, because how else are you going to gain that experience? Like how else are you going to like know what it's like to work with big talent, with big, you know what I mean? So like it depends on your videography style and like, you know, what kind of videographer are you? Like, do you know what I mean? Because like these days you can just walk into a club with a camera and there'll be like, you know, 20 videographers, whatever. Like, yeah, like, and it's like, yeah, cool. You've got celebrities on your reel, but like, have you actually worked with them? Like, have you actually, you know what I mean? Like there's a big old difference between like directing talent and then like just shooting talent. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, then there's all of that to explore as well, because there's no right way in. There's loads of ways in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, if you want to spend the time being a runner and learning, it is the most amazing place to learn, because you won't ever learn from like true governors unless you know, spend a few days at least on proper stuff. But if you don't care about any of that stuff, which loads of people don't, and they just want to like just do like regular work or whatever, like then don't mess about doing any of that stuff, because like, you know, it is all rosy peachy, but then there is obviously a flip side to that as well, which can be the kind of, are you happy just being an assistant forever vibes, or like even if you are one of those like top directors in that world, like, are you like super busy the whole time, and are you happy like doing all that stuff? Or like, you know what I mean? Like, what makes you happy?
What makes you happy? It comes down
like
at the end of the day.
Always the question,
right?
isn't it? And like, you know, like,
and how happy? How long do you see yourself in the same field, doing the same thing over and over again without burning out? I guess it's another question, right? Because burnout, it's there, it's real. You can do it constantly, and you get to a point where you're sick and tired, as you just mentioned earlier, right? You do it for 3 years, you're like, I'm bored, I had enough of it. And then probably from that point onwards, if you keep on doing it for another 2 years, you're gonna burn out. And you might not even like the industry itself, and you just ruined something for yourself, right?
Yeah, burning out's a big one. Like, and on the big, you know, big sets, commercials, music videos, especially, they're long hours. Like, you know, I can't remember the last time. I don't do music videos anymore, but when I did, I don't remember the last time I did a music video anything shy of like 14 hours. Like, wow, you know, like, it's mental.
I think, Josh, that, you know, the younger generation of videographers / cinematographers that they're about to step in this industry, they might have a misconception of how long it takes to be on set, how long it takes to film something, how long it takes to create an advert, a commercial, to be a runner. It doesn't matter. They potentially might have the misconception of, I'm going to be there for 4 hours, you do some filming, you're done, haha, amazing, 8 hours, and you're done, you go home, you rest, it's fine. But that's not the truth, is it? What should they expect when they reach to this point?
Yeah. It's a good thing that you mentioned, because, you know, as rosy peachy as a music video might seem, they are literally the longest things to make, you know, to make happen. Like, you know, they take so much longer than you think. And then, you know, the fun doesn't just stop when they say wrap. For you as the runner, you've got to then like help everyone tidy away, yada, yada, yada. And this, like, you know, you're looking at a seriously long time. And this may or may not be in a studio. You might be outside, you might be in the rain, you might be either going to be cold. Like, you know, this is like, and you're on your feet all day, you know, and this is what something, you know, people should understand about the business is like, there, you know, with that glamour comes really hard and heavy work.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I know plenty of people, I won't say plenty, I know a few people that have just decided, do you know what, I'm not into this. Like, I don't care enough about working with, you know, a celebrity. That doesn't make me happy enough to warrant these awful, like literally like sometimes like brutal working conditions that you can, just because you're up against it, and it's the elements more than anything.
So okay, I think if we go back just a bit, because I think we've kind of sidetracked from the main topic of the podcast, which is fantastic because it always happens in our podcast. We always find small threads that we discuss about, and it's good because there's a lot of people that resonate with what we discuss here. But I think going back to your experience, my question would be, how did you landed your first big gig, and what was the experience like for you?
Yeah, I think the big gig that I landed with a big client was when I was, like I say, I was a runner, and I was coming to the end of my like running days, and I was trying to make everyone around me aware of the fact that I'm a videographer, I can shoot, if anyone needs any behind the scenes, yada yada yada. So it was coming up towards the summer, to the end of that thing, and basically a friend of mine who worked in-house at Great Guns was like, Josh, we've got this thing at Cannes Lions, like the festival, we're just going to be doing some like Q&As with like some of the directors in-house at Great Guns, and that was like amazing because like this is just the most incredible production company, like David Nutter. Wow. From Game of Thrones Red Wedding Sequence, the director who did that, and like doing an interview with him like was just like incredible, and he, stuff like that, like, and that was just so I wouldn't say that was like a big client win, but it was like, this was at the time where I was like, basically I've had enough of all that work, and it was perfect because it gave me all the sort of fire on my belly that I needed to then like go on and here we go, do your own thing, right? And like, hopefully I could come back to that world, but this is cool, and and that was really great, and I think we all need that in our life. Like if we want to do a sudden U-turn or whatever, you need to make sure that when you hit the U-turn and you're back the other way, that the first job you land is enough. It's going to give you all that acceleration to, do you know what I mean? Because it's now or never, right? It's already, you know what I mean? It's already happening.
What was one of the biggest challenges that you had while working with big celebrities or with high profile people?
I wouldn't say there's necessarily like any like standout challenges. I would probably say honestly, like the challenges I had were when I was starting out. And like, and I would sort of think like, oh, like they're so, but it's not, it's actually about my level, like not being quite good enough, like to do the job. And I've noticed that, like, it's smoother, way smoother now than it was, because I totally winged it right at the start. I was like going on stuff which I was like, shouldn't have really been doing, because I wanted to get somewhere. Do you know what I mean? So like the first few jobs were a bit like, you know what I mean? Like
bumpy road,
mistaking, like, you know what I mean? Winging it. And then like, but then you do those, you make one or two mistakes here and there, and then before you know it, it's all smooth, right? Because that's what we do, isn't it?
What advice would you give to someone that wants to start in this beautiful industry of ours and to break through and get high-end names on their portfolio? What advice would you give them?
Okay, so I think advice, if someone is not started at all, they've got nothing, they're thinking about doing it, I would say definitely go and be a runner. Go and actually work on a proper music video with some proper talent that's really decent. You know what I mean? Like go and do that, go and witness it and go and see it, because like that's obviously above the, like, let's say videographer world. But if you want to make, I think these days, if you want to make something that is like really, really sick as a music video, as a videographer, then where else are you going to learn that? You got to go and experience it from the true governors that do it well, and then you can see the magic. I think, like, if you want to, because where else are you going to learn? Like, because also so much of music videos is lighting, right? So like, like, I guess, like, ask yourself the question, like, are you more of a visual videographer, or like, do you prefer to like maybe lean on the directing side more? And then, like, you know what I mean? Like, because that's obviously something there, like, especially with, choreography, etc. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to manage that if you're going to do lighting and blah, blah, blah. And then it sort of naturally expands a bit, doesn't it? Like, like videography, music video, there's only like there's a limit, isn't there? And unfortunately, because I think it's hard to do so many things well.
Yeah.
So I've just pickled that answer a bit because I've sort of given you lots of things. But what I would say is like right at the very start, you know, understand like what kind of videographer do you want to be, and what kind of style do you want to sort of go for. And like you mentioned celebrities and like what music videos, right? You mentioned celebrities.
Yeah, celebrities, yeah.
Because like
and commercials as well, commercial work.
Yeah, so like more celebrities, I guess it depends what sort of celebrity you want, because that's obviously quite a few things, isn't it? So like musicians, you'll find them in music videos and tour things. Like actors, like less music, do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's quite a wide like sort of array, and maybe it's not all about celebrities and brands. Maybe it's about like, which sector do you want to do? So like, are you interested in music? Like, are you interested in fashion, sports? And then like, I think then you sort of, my advice would be like, right, if you know you really want to do sports, then just like go and like try and witness a big cool shoot for like Nike or whatever. Like go and see one of them cool ones if you can, and reach out to the people, you know, find out who the frequent directors are, find out who the frequent DOPs are. You know, you'll see it on their grams, right? And then hit them up. I want to be your assistant. Go and witness the magic, but know which area you want to get into first, because like it's a big old market out there. There's a lot of work, and like, you know, there's enough for everyone really. So like, you know, pick your thing first, and then like get in there. That's all I'll say.
And you mentioned earlier your style. How do you establish your style as a videographer? Yeah,
so look, I work as a videographer, but I also work as a director and a producer director, which is going to probably annoy a lot of people. I think my directing style is, okay, so I'm currently in documentary. I do a bit of sports and a bit of fashion. All right, I'm getting more niche as I'm going. Right, I'm getting, so like, you know, come and chat to me in 5 years' time, and I'll be like, I'm just that guy. But like, I'm still getting there. You know, and this is a journey, and you know, I'm one for the meal, one for the real, always. So like, that's why I've got a few hats in the minute, and I'm getting there. But like, yeah, the videography thing steps in as and when the right job comes in. So like, you know, I can, because I've learned all the skills of like being a videographer. I've been doing it for a while, and like, and the idea that I can switch from directing to videography makes me a lot more like nimble, and therefore like some of the greatest jobs I've got have been because I can shoot, and like, you know, it will be like a kind of, right, we need someone to go to Saudi Arabia to make some golf like tomorrow, you know, and it'll be on the golf course, you'll be with the players, and so like there's no room for like a big old team, there's no like director or whatever. This is like live action stuff, right? And then and so like that, for that instance, is like, you know, and really cool glam jobs like that. You know, it's just like wicked, available, and like, and I can sort of like, I can do that well, right? Yeah. But then like when it's a brand, when it's like, let's say it's like something with a product, like, and it's something more serious, then like if it's really suited to me, I'll shoot it. But if it's not, I'll get the right DOP that can do that really
basically
well.
Someone who has the style to match what the client requires. So it's important to have a really good established style and to know you, to be aware of it.
Definitely, because look, I'm very visual, I'm a very visual director, and like when I can shoot, I do, like, I enjoy it, it's wicked. But like a lot of the times it would be like that someone needs to manage the client, and like, you know, if it's a big client, you've got to like, you know, and like if you're shooting as well, it's a bit like messy,
all
and
over
a bit
the
like,
place,
you know what I mean? And then it's like, you know, who's going to direct the talent, like this, you know what I mean? So then that's an obvious move when I say like, right, who's the right DOP? Like, are you available? What's your day rate? Can I have you, please?
So, you know, you said earlier, one for the meal, one for the real. How important is your reel? Because you just said one for the meal, one for the real. So fair enough. That means that your show reel is really important. It's crucial. Yeah,
one for the meal, one for the real. Like, that's okay. Like, you know, you wanna be able to do stuff that you're proud of. You want to be able to feed the, you know, pay the rent, pay the mortgage, whatever. Like, it's okay. Your show reel is like the most important thing you can have. No one's going to take you seriously if you don't have a show reel. Right. Like, and your show reel needs to be you.
So, Josh, as a freelancer, how do you market yourself, and how do you find new clients?
You know, you've got to be visible. You've got to stay visible, and just trying to maintain the previous clients and let them know that you're still around. Every time there's a new show reel, I'll send them a link and stuff like that. Yeah, LinkedIn's cool, man. And the dots is cool.
But do you approach them on LinkedIn? Do you write messages, or how does that work?
I just, like, whenever I post stuff, I'll just make sure I do it through all the channels, right? So and then people can see what I'm doing. I don't necessarily reach out to people as much as I should do. We talked about that as well. Do you remember? It was
we had quite a good conversation.
Kind of like, you know what I mean?
We will talk about that, because that's like following up on endless emails. And when do you end up looking like a proper tool? Like 5 emails later, 10 emails later. Hi, are you still interested what we talked 3 months ago about?
It's really hard though, because like sometimes you really want the job, like, you know what I mean? It would be like, are you available to go to Madagascar? No, like, are you available to go to the Seychelles? And like, you know what I mean? And it'll be like, you're like, yeah, like that. And so, you know what I mean? It's like, it's that hard, delicate thing of like, not seeming too keen when like all you can think about is that like one you want. Like,
so we've discussed, Josh, about how, to market yourself and how to find new clients. But I think a really valid question, which we were kind of brushing a bit earlier, was how many times should you follow up on an email or on a client? Like, after you inquired, they had the first inquiry, how many times should you follow up? How many emails should you do? How many calls should you make? 3, 4, 5? When does it sound when do you sound desperate? Yeah. That's the question.
It's a tricky one. And look, everything's a little bit different. I think if you know it's in the can, like it's yours, then doesn't matter. Often that it's gone out to like other people. So then you have to be like mindful of like you say, not appealing too desperate. And you've got to let the work speak for itself a lot of the time. And if you can't do that, but then it's also like, if you can get them on the phone, then like sometimes you can like have an advantage there, maybe, because you can, it's, as it's never one shoe fits all for anything, right? So, and if it's for you, again, like I love getting on the phone with people, because I can work out what it is and like what's going on, if it's even right for me, like, because I say no to stuff that's not right, like, as we all do, because
you wouldn't take any type of work that whatever is out there, you would say no to certain things. What's the difference, or what differences did you notice on working with small businesses, medium businesses? Is there something that you noticed?
So the difference in working between small businesses, medium businesses, and let's say large businesses is it's always the same sort of questions at the start. Is there an in-house director? Like, pedal back, first of all, do you have an idea? Do you know what you want to do? And then it's like, do you have an in-house director? Do you have an in-house like producer? How much of the story is there? Like, what do you kind of need like us to do, sort of thing? And I think once you sort of get past those questions, my experience is actually like, sometimes people think, because it's a big brand, they've got a big budget, but that's not often the case. Like, often, budgets will be assigned, and like, for me personally, I'm not working on those like super glam high-end commercials. That'll be someone else's job. I'm doing the sort of more medium-sized like production-y things, and they'll have a set budget for that, right? And often that's the sort of thing with every scales, whether they're big, medium, or small, is they'll have a sort of set budget for like, well, this is like what we need for the video. This is what we've got to spend on the video.
And how do you ensure that your work meets the client's goals? Is there a specific process that you have in place, or?
Like at the start, we always have a chat about what's going on, what's the idea. Do you have an in-house director? Do you need a director? What's the story? What are you thinking? Have you got a reference? What's the budget? And then once we get past that, then it's like, cool. Do you want me to direct it? If so, like, here's a treatment, like, and here's a storyboard. Sometimes it might go as far as even here's like a sort of idea of the music we want. Just a real bulletproof like treatment that's sick, that they are in love with, and then that gives you the permission to like take it and do it. And so sometimes you get to do the entire creative, other times they'll have a creative in-house that will do that. So it's never one shoe fits all. And often they'll want to do something because they've seen something that they like, and then it's
quite common though,
and then it's like, at what point, if it's completely like a copy of someone else's, at what point do you say at the very start, not for me. Sorry, that's like so-and-so's work. I can't be seen to do that.
But you get a bit of inspiration here and there. That's acceptable, right? You get inspired from various ads, and you're like, wow, I would love that. I would love to do that myself, or take that shot myself. But I guess not copying everything one-to-one, because it's a bit...
Yeah, you just cannot take the audio and like copy and paste it. Like you can't steal that like voiceover or stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's not yours. You can't have that. You'd be surprised.
You mentioned earlier that, I think you touched upon a valuable point earlier, budgets, right? And now I think we're going to go towards the finance part of the podcast and to find out a bit more about quotes, clients, budgets, and so on and so forth. So I think the first question would be, do you think discounts should be offered on big projects, on big contracts? And how do you deal with clients that push towards discounts?
It's a general rule of thumb. It's a no.
To start with.
Yeah. Because it's like, do you want to work with us or not? Like, the rates are fair. Like, the rates are transparent. You can see what it costs. But I think the area where it's different is like, so away from anything that's commercial or branded content or anything. Let's say you're doing a passion project, all right? Let's say you got something that you want to do that's like, for the real, just for the real. Then let
probably you'll throw a discount there, right?
Yeah. Because
just so you get it,
because you want it, right?
Yeah.
You want it. So let's say your reel is looking a bit boring after 3 years of doing the same old, you know what I mean? And then it's like, and then at what point, but that's a private matter, and that's something that people, should always factor in. But I think it's, as a producer director, right, understanding the budget at the start is what you need to do, rather than thinking about discounts. It's just about like, what do we have to play with? Because no one does stuff like underneath what they're comfortable with. And I know some guys out there might have different rates for, let's say, an APA commercial versus a music video versus a branded content versus a YouTuber versus a wedding or whatever. Yeah. Right. And you might have different rates for that. And that's cool. That's great. Do your thing. It makes you more nimble because not everyone's got an APA rate. But just understanding which area it's from, and then whether you want to change the idea or whatever. Like, it's all, I guess it's a sort of private matter, I suppose, for each person, isn't it? Because like sometimes you want the job, and you want it on the reel.
And how would you calculate your rate? How do you calculate your rate yourself?
Like, I follow an APA guideline, right? So I do like an 11-hour plus equipment. That's how I calculate my day rate.
Could we talk a bit more about how do you handle your business side of things as a freelancer? Invoicing, contracts, taxes, all of that, which sounds daunting. And let's be honest, it is daunting, but it's part of our job, part of our, process of being a freelancer. So how do you handle that? How do you manage that?
QuickBooks.
Bum, bum, bum.
It's sick. QuickBooks is the one. You can smash out an invoice on your phone, like whilst you're doing something, and like ping, like send it off, PayPal link in it, dosh, and you can get like ting, like paid, like.
And okay, so you use QuickBooks as an invoicing software, and any other tools to streamline your invoicing process that you would recommend, or just QuickBooks all the way?
QuickBooks all the way, and you can do estimates on that as well. It's sick, and yeah, just on it with QuickBooks because it's just really easy. And I didn't know how to use QuickBooks at the start, so I went on this like tutorial thing, and like there was this guy who was like a set designer, and he was like, I'm really struggling, because he was like, I want to make my invoices like really like zhuzhy, and like and you're just stuck with like the boring. I think you get like 3 options of like Helvetica and like not zhuzh, like, do you know what I mean? Like, and this guy was like, he had these like wicked invoices that were all like sparkly and whatnot, and he was like, I hate this program, and I was there just literally trying to ask about like tax reasons. It was like funny. Like, yeah.
And I guess that on top of your taxes and all this invoicing process, there's also the expenses for traveling and materials. Do you invoice this? Do you send an invoice for that to your clients? Like, do you charge for travels?
I'm a bit old school. I tend to keep travel within the M25, like from the old school back in the day rule.
Yeah.
So if it's outside the M25, it's what 0.50p per mile.
Per mile, yeah.
And then you do that from like W1, like the most central like dunk point. Do you know what I mean? On the thing. And yeah, of course, travel expenses go without saying because that's what you need to do that. But I think if it's in central London, I mean, like, yeah, sometimes with equipment, can we have parking? Can we like? It just depends on how how, because if you've got a van with equipment and stuff like that, that's a big cost. And there's, you know what I mean? Is there going to be location, like those things are like obviously clear, transparent costs that just need that you know, and it's production related, so that's really not our job to cover, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And what is your policy for invoicing and payment terms? Do you require a deposit initially or partial payment? How do you do that with clients?
Initially, we'll try and take a 50% upfront deposit of the entire
project.
If there's things like rental and if I'm penciling other crew, I've really loved to try and pay my crew the day they send the invoice to me, because I used to hate it back in the day when I'd work for a big client. You send an invoice and you're chasing
30, 60, 90 days, yeah.
You know, and it's like, because you're part of a big unit and it's like, you know, this, that, and that. I'm just like, right, I'm going to make a point of like making sure that everyone that I'm booking gets paid right away, because it's unfair. Like, you've done the work. It's funny, this is a business of like, you do the work and then you get paid afterwards. It's like when any other business, when on earth does that, you know, when is that going to be a legit thing? You know, okay, I need a plumber. I'm going to pay you in 35 days later, mate. Like,
it's never happened. Yeah.
What?
That's true. And how do you handle late payments?
We get the heavies and we go, no, I'm kidding.
I'm kidding. That's how it works. Let me write that down.
I wish
for myself.
I was a bit more hard. No, please and thank yous always. It's a tough one, isn't it? Like, cash flow problems are real, and then, you know, sometimes the bigger companies that have all the budgets can take a long time. You know how it goes. Everyone has different terms and conditions, but it's just about being civilized and not bringing the heavies over. Obviously, I'm kidding on that. But it's always a thing, isn't it? And it's like it's just trying to remain understanding and sympathetic, because sometimes cash flow is like a real thing. BBC have a thing, you know, as you know, you go into like a portal and then you like, you know, you wait like whatever, and then you have to like go and find the portal and like get your money out, and it's like really
quite a bit of a mission. Right?
Yeah, and then you have to like a supplier form, PO, and all this crap, and it's like.
But do you charge like late payment fees?
I know that other people do, and respect to them on that. That's that can definitely like keep your clients on your toes, and I think that's a good idea. But I haven't got there yet with that one.
You know, do you recommend raising your fees every year? Because we're talking about finances and all that. And what does a little bit mean? 2%, 5, 10, 15, 50? A bit than 50% every year?
Yeah, a little bit. I think because, you know, once you know, that's another year under your belt. That's another year of experience. That might be 100 jobs or whatever. That's a lot of like learning. That you're a little bit better. You know, you're a bit better. It goes up a bit, just a little bit. On the labour, the kit might go down because it's a year older.
Yeah, fair
but
enough.
like,
but
no, I think your labor, you've got to just be true to your labor costs, and like, you know.
We discussed about finances. Let's just recap. We discussed about finances. We discussed about how you started. But now let's discuss about something that we mentioned at the very beginning. Jack of all trades. So you are, pun intended, you are director, you're producer, freelance videographer. How does that translate, man? Because that sounds like a lot of pressure on you and a lot of hats to, you know, wear at once.
Okay. So, let's go back to this. All right. So if anyone can check this out, and you can Google this term. Okay. So you say jack of all trades, master of none. But the real phrase, anyone can check this out, they can Google it. It goes, jack of all trades, master of none, but often better than a master of none, which is that right? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Which is an interesting thing to say, because what was once an insult is now, you know, a bit more of a celebration. Now, I wouldn't say that I'm a jack of all trades. I would say that I've got like trades that I can do well. You know, as a producer, I can only do like smaller end stuff. I'm not like a heavyweight producer at all whatsoever, but I can do medium-sized things. Producer, director, as both producer, director, basically managing client, booking the crew, making it happen, plus directing talent on the day. Cool. You do that, right?
Yeah.
That's something you do as well. Like, I wouldn't necessarily going around from the top of the hill saying like, I'm a producer, but on the DL, like, yeah, like, produce, director, cool. Bring in a DOP, get him to shoot it, wicked, happy days. But then, the being able to be a videographer makes me like nimble, and like makes me more available to do like, the sort of more actiony, like live, like run and gun, like super fun, like, and I'll only ever do stuff that's right for me. I won't overload myself. Like, sometimes I can't be a videographer because I can't be a shooter because there is no director. The client doesn't have a director. So then it's like, cool, I can be the director and I can get someone else to shoot it. That's great. And like, that's not because of anything other than just doing what's right for the project, And I think everyone needs to be a little bit malleable and a bit like, be able to just like win the job if it's right, and then and then make it work, like whichever way. And I think especially these days, there's like, the kind of the rise of these more and more social media platforms, and the barrier to entry getting lower and lower and lower. Like that's cool.
Right, Josh. So we've covered literally everything and anything, from the point of being a freelancer, director, the jack of all trades, putting it out there as well. But we didn't discuss a bit your personal life. How do you balance work as a freelance videographer with being a husband, father of 2?
Yeah.
How do you balance? Because obviously you travel around the world with work. How does that work out for you?
Yeah. How does it work? I've got an understanding partner that gets it, and so I've said no to like. I've said, okay, we say no to the ones that just aren't right. But then when you have to say no because of like a family thing, that's like a much harder thing to do, right? Because it's like, I'm not saying no because the job's not right. I'm saying no because the pressures from the, are so much that, and like, I'm very blessed and lucky to have a really super understanding, gorgeous, lovely wife that gets it and is really supportive of my career and knows that I'm still getting there. Like, I'm not there yet. Do you know what I mean? So like, she's very understanding and and will support me in all the right ways and all this other stuff. But like, there was one example where this was our honeymoon, right? And we booked this like amazing, well, just a sweet honeymoon, it's our honeymoon. So yeah, one of my friends who's a senior producer at an agency like reached out, and she said like, Josh, do you want to work with, and then said the celebrity's name, and then said the location, and then said the budget. Well, gave me an indication of the sort of budget, and was like, and this was like a dream job, like, and I don't even want to say who it was and what it was for.
No, but you did mention as well about the private jets and I think let's highlight that with a marker. I want to go into that.
No. But like, it was probably the most famous person you could ever possibly imagine, in the most perfect place you could ever imagine, but like, not just about the celebrityness of it. It was like, it was perfect for me. It was right in line. It was like everything. And I kind of, it wasn't necessarily in the can, but they were like, we know that you're the guy for the job. And it's like, it matches your thing. And it's like, great. When are the dates? And literally, like, it translates to like me having the conversation with my wife, and it's just like, it's just written all over her face, but she's saying like, yeah, do it, like, take the job, it's the right job for you, when it's just,
but it was your honeymoon and you had to leverage that against the dream job.
And it's like, it's that kind of action speaks louder than words, you can just, and it was like, so I was like, look, but whilst I'm doing that, I'm like writing a treatment, like, making it good, I'm like, just out of interest, like, but like, I'm just like, I did actually write a treatment. But like, no, I said, I called her up and I was like, she knows my wife, so she's like, I get it, it's okay.
But you had to kind of let go to that job just to go in your honeymoon.
Yeah,
so you have to compromise sometimes.
Yeah, because also, like, had I done that job, like, you never know. Like, sometimes they, you know, with that level of star, like, they could have cancelled it last minute anyway. You know, you never know how it's going to go. It's never concrete until you're like actually. Even when you're there, sometimes they're like, "No, I don't want to do it." Whatever. You know what I mean? It's mental when it's that like that. And then, so you know, you just got to. But I don't think I could have ever like forgiven myself. I don't think like it comes a point where you have to like. What is the most important thing? Like, you know, it's not like a holiday, it's like a honeymoon. And like, you know, ask anyone, you know, you make sacrifices, but then there's just obviously certain things that we just have our barriers, don't we? And like,
you shouldn't cross
nearly
crossed. Well, definitely, Josh, we've covered so many topics, and I'm really, really grateful to having you here in this episode. We've covered everything from how you started up until to the point of, you know, where you are now and what your future is, which is beautiful. Thank you so much, Josh, for coming in. Yeah, let's shake some hands. There we go.
Well done, Josh. Good job, man.